I prepared a sort of the telegraphic overview as a usual victim of this alphabetic discrimination, speaking last, speaking last and usually giving 3 minutes only. Relations between European Union and Uzbekistan will reach its 25th year, and was the only way, I mean, as in traditional Oriental societies, the ruling class, it will never, I mean, admit its failures. It rather, I mean, would be accused of crimes, but not of being unable to control situation. And then the period of, I would say, relative stagnation continued till the end of the year 2016, where we have probably since then one of the most dynamic developments in our relations, which coincided with the overall reform drive within the Uzbekistan. In trade terms, European Union remains, I mean, either a third or fourth major trade partner for Uzbekistan. It depends on which customs statistics you use. I mean, there is quite a disparity. I mean, naturally, Russia and China are in front of us, but actually also Kazakhstan is extremely important trading partner for Uzbekistan. So the total turnover last year was 1.8 billion euros, of which 3/4 those are European exports, and only approximately 1/4 those are Uzbek exports towards the European Union. We can speak about a relatively low level of European investments in Uzbekistan, which was mostly dictated by the fact that there, until very recently, was extremely unwelcome regulatory environment, coupled with enormous difficulties related to the currency exchange and the possibility for repatriation of your profits, which made Uzbekistan, frankly speaking, as one of the least attractive destinations. Situation is changing. I'm saying probably looking from the outside, it's not that visible. When you stay in Tashkent and you look from inside, all those reforms ongoing, they are quite spectacular, including the gradual liberalization of the currency exchange, which was probably one of the boldest steps taken by the government. So, in terms of development cooperation, Uzbekistan is probably one of the most important partners here in the region. The total budget over 7 years is 168 million euros. There was a rather slow uptake in terms of number of projects, their size, again, until the end of 2016. However, we can say that now there is a very strong increase in activities. There are so many new proposals coming up for those projects. There is a considerable increase in responsiveness of our Uzbek partners to our proposals as well. The main area of development cooperation with Uzbekistan for European Union, this is rural development, regional development, including support to the agricultural sector. Apart from that, we can speak that we consider as one of our success stories. This is participation of Uzbekistan in Erasmus Plus program. Uzbek universities are the most active ones within the region, and Uzbekistan has the highest number of students, teachers, and researchers involved in this program. Speaking of regional cooperation, I wouldn't probably divulge a big secret that, again, until the end of 2016, Uzbekistan was probably one of the most reluctant countries to engage in any sort of regional activities. Specifically, I would say the area of security cooperation was almost excluded. In other areas, I would say there was some engagement, but without much of enthusiasm. Now we can, without much of exaggeration, we can say that Uzbekistan is probably the major driving force behind enhanced regional cooperation here in Central Asia. And I would say we are not speaking about Central Asia only. There is a sort of 180 degrees change of attitudes towards Afghanistan. Let's say 2 years ago, I would speak to my Uzbek counterparts and ask their opinions about Afghanistan and possible involvement in joint projects, something like that. I would say I would have an impression from both their verbal and non-verbal communication that there is almost nothing which exists south of Amu Darya River, and they have nothing in common with those people on the other side of the border. Now we see enormous interest in developing Afghanistan, in actually contributing to stabilization and security of Afghanistan through enhanced social and economic development. And of course, apparently this is a win-win situation, because Afghanistan provides to Uzbekistan also one of the ways to access the world market. And of course, one of the latest proposed projects, and this is construction of the railway line beyond Mazar-e Sharif. The first one also actually built by the Uzbek side from Hayraton to Mazar-e Sharif, from Mazar-e Sharif to Herat, and further connecting to the Iranian railway system, eventually reaching port of Bandar Abbas on the Arabian Sea. This is a sort of the strategic goal. Landmark event, I would say, already mentioned by Peter, that was Samarkand, a ministerial meeting and conference, international conference, which were organized back-to-back in November. I think that really earmarked a new page in regional relations. And then, of course, speaking about the involvement with Afghanistan, I can tell you that Uzbekistan, but also Kazakhstan, which is very active in this area, they have enormous advantage, because when providing this assistance, including a training program for Afghan youth, for Afghani students coming both to Kazakhstan, coming to Uzbekistan, apart from getting, just the technical part, the education itself, they are also gaining very, very valuable life experience, which is probably not comparable to the life experience that they can gain while studying in any European countries, or, I don't know, in the United States, somewhere else, being, completely transferred into the environment which is alien to them. Here we can speak about the environment which is has at least some similarities to their own homeland, and they can see that modernity in this part of the world, modernity and Islam are absolutely compatible, which has also this sort of the wider educational value than just gaining some professional experience. So probably on this I would end for the moment, and then of course I would be open for any questions.